The Quatermass Experiment. This was Hammer Studios' first step into the horror genre, though they had already been delving into science fiction. It was a huge success and paved the way for their color horror films that they're known for. Yeah, Dracula Frankenstein. No wonder this one gets overlooked. I mean, what is Quatermass anyway? A monster, a planet, a supernatural element of some kind? Well, no, it's the name of the main character. A scientist who builds rockets for colonization of the moon. The title isn't too catchy, is it? Well, in the US, it was called The Creeping Unknown, probably because American audiences didn't know the Quatermass Experiment was originally a 1953 BBC television show that was very popular in the UK. The movie's set in England, where a rocket crash lands. The rocket was built by Quatermass, who quickly arrives on the scene to check out what happened. The rocket had 3 men inside, but only one returns. They bring him back to the hospital, but he escapes and he's not the same. He's been infected while in space and now has the ability to absorb any living thing he comes in contact with. He goes into a zoo at one point and absorbs all the animals, which changes his body structure, and now he becomes a grotesque monster. A fungus-like growth appears on his hand until the growth creeps all over his body, consuming him until he's nothing but a living fungus creature. Quatermass discovers that not only is his rocket ship pilot now an alien monster, but that he's going to start reproducing and spreading the alien creatures all over the world. With humanity at stake, Quatermass must kill the astronaut-turned-space monster before it reproduces. At the time, the film was considered extreme. They gave it an X rating, which is hard to believe today, and decided to capitalize on the situation. So that's why Experiment begins with an X as opposed to E. In the 70s, Hammer certainly never had any problem with adult material, I can tell you that, but that's another story. Like I said, this film was a huge success, and because of that, the studio was eager to do more content in the same vein. They dropped their next planned production, King Charles and the Roundheads, and immediately began production on a sequel, Quatermass 2. You'd think it would have been slapped together just to capitalize on the success of the first, but surprise, the sequel is first-rate entertainment.
An indestructible danger beyond all earthly understanding.
Professor Quatermass is back again, played by Brian Dunleavy, the same actor as in the first film. You might recognize him if you've ever seen Gamera. Actually, he was only in the English version. Shout Factory recently remastered the original Japanese Gamera films. If you want to see the English version, then I guess you'd have to seek out another copy. Like the Sci-Fi Classics 50 Movies box set. Yeah, that has the Wasp Woman. No, you don't want to see the Wasp Woman. Anyway, due to the strange fall of meteorites in a nearby village, Quatermass stumbles onto a top-secret project where he's told the factory is making artificial food to solve the hunger problems of the world.
It's a government project to make synthetic food.
Synthetic food? With guards and guns?
But Quatermass is too sharp for that. He doesn't buy it, and soon figures out the factory is really a base for a giant alien invasion. The meteorites contain tiny living organisms that have the ability to take over humans and turn them into zombies. The film has quick pacing and a fantastic creepy score. There's also some nice models, sets, and effects work. The filmmakers used a real oil refinery for the alien base, and the pipes and tunnels give the film a unique and eerie feeling. A friend that accompanies Quatermass to the plant gets caught in one of the artificial food processors. He comes out looking like he just fell into a septic tank. Ew. And we find out that they are indeed making food at this place, but it's food for aliens, which is deadly to humans.
This is the food, and it burns.
You like it,
No, don't touch me.
It's all part of a government conspiracy. Quatermass wants to check out this factory and determine what's going on because he knows there's something that's just not right about the place. And of course we find out that's true. But along the way, the government does everything they can to thwart his efforts. They cut his funding for his rocket program and don't want him involved. We feel for him because we know he's right. He's more heroic here than in the first movie. He's one man fighting against not only the space aliens, but the people in power who run our lives. Then we have the villagers who are opposed by the soldiers. At first they think Quatermass is out to get them and that he's full of crap. The villagers have been given work at this factory, but they've been told to keep their mouths shut or else they'll lose their jobs. They have no idea what's really going on inside this place, they just do what they're told. They give a passive consent, and it's Quatermass who eventually gets them on his side and to take matters into their own hands. That's the issues the film deals with, conforming to a stronger power versus taking a stand and fighting back. It's somewhat like Invasion of the Body Snatchers because we have aliens taking over the human race and conforming everybody to their own plan. Lastly, I gotta mention the aliens. It's the 1950s, so of course they're pretty darn cheesy looking. But the rest of the film is so well put together, you can overlook that and still feel a sense of doom. Quatermass 2, or Enemy from Space, or whatever you want to call it, is a well-made, thought-provoking sci-fi flick and one of Hammer's best. Then finally, we have Quatermass in the Pit, otherwise known as 5 Million Years to Earth here in the US. This one was made much later, in 1967. It's in color, and a different actor plays Quatermass. While constructing a new underground subway, workers uncover the remains of ancient bones in the ground. When they dig further, they find some kind of bomb left over from World War II. They bring in some experts to take a closer look and find locust-type creatures inside of it. That's when Quatermass gets involved. He finds out the ship is alive, emitting an energy force. He determines that Martians landed in prehistoric times and affected the evolution of humans, and the alien ship poses a threat because they have the ability to turn people evil. The last 20 minutes or so is all just chaos, and it's pretty damn entertaining. The locust aliens are a bit silly looking. I was kinda disappointed when they opened the ship and the aliens were just insect-looking things. And at the end, when everything's going crazy, all the evil is unleashed and there's another creature which is at the forefront of the demonic riot. The whole thing just has to be seen to be believed. This was the late 60s when people were taking too many drugs. 2001: A Space Odyssey, yep, I'm talking about that. Great movie, but not very strong in narrative structure. If you want an alternative sci-fi flick from this period, one that's real trippy, but still has a coherent enough story, then check out Quatermass in the Pit. And while you're at it, give the whole trilogy a watch, especially if you're into classic sci-fi and horror.